thanks for joining. Thanks for your time this evening. You came from Annandale and you came from Alexandria. This is exciting. We just started off this team last month, this group. And the focus is just to introduce everyone to each other and grow our networks. That's the primary focus of this. And I met my friend here, Hassan, in another grid meeting, and I met you at another grid meeting. I've met my current business partner at a grid meeting where we've gone and purchased properties. So this is a really valuable thing because it's focused on real estate and investing. And we bring diverse backgrounds from contracting, general contracting to real estate and managing properties and so forth. So it's for you. So what is grid?
Yeah, I mean, it's global real estate community, right? It's built for investors by investors. There's, I believe it's been around for about 4 to 5 years, and there's a number of locations in the DMV, but they're starting to expand out now on at least a US perspective. And so what we're trying to do here in Great Falls is connect new money with old money to some degree, right? I think there's a lot of opportunity here within this market. As you can see, as you're driving around, you see so much development happening. And so, our idea is to build our own sort of network. We definitely collaborate with other grids as well, like Kayvon and myself. We all know some of the other organizers, and we collaborate. We speak at their events, they speak at our events. And that's kind of how we have the setup going. In terms of who we are, right? So my name is Hassan. I've been in real estate professionally for about 4 months. My background is more so on the digital strategy and transformation side. I've been investing in real estate for about 8 years as a whole, and I figured this year I was going to go all in. So I started a mortgage brokerage. I do residential and commercial. And then, to my catalyst to, get that going was, hey, I also needed real estate, get involved with the right folks in real estate. That's where I met Krista and Carrie and some of the other folks, and, got to meet Kayvon as well, right? So for me, this has been a year of saying yes to every opportunity that comes my way and figuring it out from there. So yeah, it's a little bit of myself. And what I'm looking to accomplish with this group is to build a network, build connections where we can collaborate on deals and opportunities that we come across.
My name's Kayvon Musavi. We actually have very similar background. I was also very involved in digital transformation and so forth with the government for years. My parents, they're into construction. They've always been into construction. My mom's an architect, my dad's a structural engineer. And so I've always been in construction, but as of 10 years ago, I joined full time. And so earlier this year, I was looking to see how I could bring more value to others, because I had met so many realtors who didn't know much about construction, the underlying thing of if I buy this home, what's good about it, what's bad about it, if I buy a lot, what's good, what's bad, what things I need to look out for. So I thought this would be an ideal group to inject myself into and help folks, and also connect you with others who can help you with your ventures, things like that. That's it. So we can go around.
Yeah.
My name is Austin D'Souza. I'm just getting started with real estate. Like two of my brothers here, I also work in technology and digital transformation. I still have that day job, but I'm slowly planning to get into real estate as well. I have one investment property at this time, but hoping to expand that into properties later in life, and eventually get into full time real estate investing. So this is my networking kind of event, trying to meet people, build my network. I've also attended other great events in restaurant Fairfax. So trying to be as many people as possible and very nice and good. Eventually, try to go for the time, realistic investment. So that's pretty much.
As we go through, sorry, I should have said this before, but. If you guys can talk about the types of properties that you're also interested in. And what do you want to learn from this group and also, how do you hope to benefit from this? So you're investing, right?
Yes, my name is Jael Thomas. I'm a real estate agent. I just got my first buy and hold investment property. I'm a part of the Pace Forward Substitute community, so I purchased it creatively. I helped my mom and she has investment property. She's been an investor for 16 years. So I started as an agent from the investment side of things in that perspective. I'm also a content creator on YouTube and I just educate and teach people as much as I can about it. And I'm looking to build more meaningful relationships with you all that are here because I've made some of my best relationships from meetups.
What's your channel?
Invest, buy and sell with Jael, and it's just Jael Thomas, Jael Thomas.
So, my name is Rich, I'm a contractor. I actually do the work myself still. I go in and build people's houses or remodel their houses, make their houses much nicer. So I've always been, learning from my mom, dad, kind of that one trick pony, you always work hard, this is what you're gonna dedicate yourself to, this is what you're gonna do. And then being acquainted with her, she's kind of opened my horizons, so I'm trying to get down to the investing side of it, because I can go in and fix it myself and just try to meet more people, network. I've always been kind of to myself, so it's just getting out, me being able to talk something like this kind of just, it's already a big step for me, so I appreciate it.
Thanks, Samir Lakhani, to add in all with IT, digital transformation, so exactly, you guys. I'm interested in fixing flips, I'm gonna meet people.
So what's digital transformation?
Like, what can we do with this?
Well, on my side, it's, the government has these processes and whatever, some of them are paper. And you bring them into digital computer. They're filling forms and stuff like that with immigration.
Right. So that means I have a background in digital transformation as well.
Oh, okay, there you
But from a different perspective. So I'm an interior designer. My brother's an architect, so I used to work with him to transfer paper drawings into AutoCAD and other types of CAD software. So I guess that's digital transformation.
Yeah.
So the reason I'm here is because I've tried over the years to kind of get into real estate, and doing it on my own is very challenging. So I wanted to find a networking group, and I've gone in and out of different ones over the years, not really found one that really resonated with me. And pretty much where I am right now is I currently own a townhouse that I bought for investment purposes to rent out. So I'm living there, but I'm also Airbnbing it at the same time. And I am actually trying to get my basement, a full bath in my basement. So hopefully I have some connections here that can help me with that. So yeah, I'm just trying to take things to the next level. I want to get another property. Like I said, it's kind of challenging doing it on your own, finding the right type of financing that I'm looking forward to do that. And so, hopefully this is the group to kind of help me catapult my business to the next level.
Very cool. So for your interior design, do you do private projects, Airbnb, stuff like that?
So I currently work as I've always done commercial interior
Okay.
design, so office interiors and that kind of thing. Yeah,
Large scale.
yeah, pretty much. That was what I preferred to do coming out of college. But I've also thought about getting into residential as well.
We're going around introducing ourselves and explaining what we're looking to take away from this group, what type of properties you're looking for, or, just your expectations.
Nice, all right, so good evening, everybody. My name is Thomas Howard. I'm a mortgage loan originator. I work with the Sun. And I'm just looking to gain as much knowledge as I can from the group. I hail from the Midwest, so I'm interested in multifamily properties. Yeah, I think I had everything.
Those here.
Here with us. Yeah, Krista.
So my name is Krista. I work with a real estate company and development company, same team as Hassan here. And specifically, we build multifamilies in DC. And I've also managed carrying vans, handful of Airbnbs over the last 6 to 7 years. Just kind of dabble in everything, and in terms of this group and everything, I'm just looking to make new connections. I think that what we've all basically said, this industry is all about networking and making connections with people who can help you in furthering your goals. So it's gonna do that too.
Because Krista helps, oh, actually, one more.
Hello, everyone. My name is Glenda Lopez. I'm on the same team as Hassan and Carrie and Dan and my colleague here. I wanted to be a part of this group primarily because I really believe that anytime people come together to discuss around the topic, the knowledge of the collective is going to be greater than the knowledge of any one individual there. So I'm here to learn from the experts. But I'm also here to share my experience, and I'm also here to learn from your experience, because each one of you already brings a wealth of knowledge that you can share with the rest of us. I have a couple of investments already. I got into it through my mom, not a choice of my own, but thank goodness for mamas out there that are looking out for you, right? And I'm just really thrilled to be here with you and to be on this learning journey about investments with you.
So we have our guest here tonight. She brings a wealth of experience on managing these PRRs. And so we'll be going into that. Before that, what we want to do is go over what is PRR and how do you find opportunities and acquire things like that. So
Yeah, first and foremost, so like thing about Krista is she's very modest. I mean, she basically, like anything when it comes to Dan and Carrie's properties, she knows all of the information. She knows everything about the permits, the licensing, the policies, the status of the buildings, where they're at, like what's going on. I mean, like, I don't know how they would, survive without you, to be honest. It's just like my take on like what I've seen so far in the last few months. But yeah, I mean, when it comes to, so what is this, like buy and hold and how to find? I mean, the one thing, and Samir, you and I were talking about this yesterday, when we gym together, because I try to keep up with the gym. We were at the gym yesterday, and we were talking about, like how do you make or create opportunities, or how do you develop them, right? And the biggest thing is putting yourself out there, right? So like the fact that you guys have come out here to meet with us and develop this connection is step one, right? And it's really the hardest part, right? Because there's so many things that happen on a day-to-day basis. Like, oh well, like I worked so hard today, now I'm tired, now I have to go home to Great Falls, it's traffic, right? So the fact that we're all here, it's number one, right? Number two is, like trying to identify, where the market is today. And, like you can look at stuff in news, you can look at stuff, on TV, but really you get it from talking to other people that are doing it day in, day out to get a real pulse and sense the market. Right. And so when you're looking to develop a strategy, whether it's the BRRRR method, whether it's buy and hold, whether it's Airbnb, really understanding, where that market is headed and understanding the regulations behind it, right? Because obviously in this market, right, we're talking about Airbnb and short-term rentals here, but the DC market is very challenging when it comes to that, right? There's a lot of restrictions. And so we can talk a little bit about how to get around that today, but then also how do you identify properties across the country as well. Yeah, so I mean, So how many of us have properties that we have as rentals right now? Is your hand up? Okay, so I guess my question to you guys, and we can go around, is why you decided to keep it versus selling it? When you bought it, what was the potential that you saw in that property?
Well, I only bought mine last year.
Okay,
So I owned a property before that and sold that in the middle of COVID.
Yeah.
So I rented for a year to kind of figure things out, see where the market was going. So I only bought this one last year. The intention was to completely rent it out short term. It's a 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath. So a 2 full, 2 half bath, and trying to convert the half bath in the basement to 4. So I can do a 4 rental. My understanding is in Virginia, you can have up to 4 people in a house. So that would pretty much max me out. My realtor is actually also invested. So he was what helped me and advising me on the potential for the income that I could get from it. And I was planning to buy another house this year or early part of next year. But my my son didn't like staying at college, so he came back home. And therefore I'm still stuck in my house.
This is in Annandale?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and I'm right next to, literally about less than a mile away from Nova campus,
Oh.
University campus. So that makes it convenient, right off the highway.
Oh, the
It's a
prices there
perfect
are
spot.
insane.
They are crazy.
yeah, I was there.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's
Yeah,
insane. We've done several construction projects.
really?
You know, single level ramblers are just through the roof.
Yeah,
So you're getting good rent over there.
yeah, I'm doing pretty well. Yeah, I'm doing pretty well. But again, I'm partially occupying it, so I'm not really getting the income that I'm anticipating getting.
Yeah.
But like you said, you know, I don't generally listen to the news in terms of to get real estate news. But I do have people that I follow who I think have done their research and really come up with like really good information that I think is reliable. Based on the information that I've been provided recently, I think I'm gonna be stuck in my townhouse for another 2 years.
Okay.
So to buy another house now might not be such a good idea.
So are you renting your investment property by the room right now?
I was, my third tenant just left today. And I put the ad on hold for now, because I want to get the basement, well, the shower, I just need to add a shower, basically, is all I need to do. And then I'm gonna rent out the basement completely, that will pay at least half of my mortgage.
Yeah.
And then I have 1 spare room, which I'll probably also rent out as well. So that's my immediate plan.
Yeah, and that's actually, you know, like. So last year, we have a primary home and I think I have 4 rentals across DMV, right? So Maryland, Virginia, and DC. And so late last year, I was thinking, do I buy another investment property with the interest rates right now? Or my wife and I, it's just us, we have no kids as of yet. We have a 5-bedroom house up top and we have a basement that we don't use at all, right? The problem was that there was no walkout with the basement, right? So, but I was looking at comps, I looked at Furnish Finder, I looked at, you know, some of the other short-term rental websites. And I looked at long-term rents in our area, and what I was seeing was, hey, I could get like anywhere from 1,600 to 2,400 a month if I rent out my basement. Right, so I was like, well, I don't have a walkout, I don't have a kitchenette down there, but instead of me investing in a down payment on like a condo somewhere, which is gonna be like 60 to 80 grand, if I invest 30K to get the walkout built, plus get like a kitchenette made, I can make 2,000 a month, you know, right? And I was like, more than half my mortgage.
And increase your home value.
And increase my home
Yep.
value, right? So it's to your point, like what you're doing with your shower, it's all about like being creative with what you have and then using that to then go on to the next piece.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
You have an investment property?
No, I don't.
You said you have one.
I had one, so I got my property, it's a townhouse in Ashburn, I got it just before COVID. Timing was perfect, because the prices went up and then I initially financed it at a higher interest rate. And then I refinanced it, so it made sense to rent it out, because I was cash flowing after paying my mortgage. So I got my second house last year and started renting my first house. It's cash flowing a little bit, it's okay.
Yeah.
Well, I got mine based on location. One is close to a lot of military government personnel, 5 bedroom, 3.5 bath. So it's a midterm rental and we give it to like insurance companies and families that are displaced, so they pay top dollar every day. Because it's cheaper than getting a hotel room for a large family or 3 hotel rooms. So I got another one by Johns Hopkins University, because we have in the hospital, because we have colleges there, doctors and the nurses, and it has a pool, so.
And so how did you get the insurance companies to come there?
Because I actually had a really traumatic incident where I was displaced for months, and we realized that the insurance company wants to find you somewhere really nice, but also save some money. And it has to have some type of kitchen, so we started marketing to insurance adjusters to get insurance companies to rent out our properties. So it's an MTR 30-day plus, so that if someone wants like a weekend, you still can get that full amount instead of, missing out on someone who wants to book you for 10 days. So we do 30-day plans.
And this is Baltimore.
One is in Clinton, Maryland, and one is in Baltimore.
Okay. What are their short-term rental restrictions on?
I don't have any HOA on the one in John Hopkins, the one in Clinton. As long as we did 30 days plus, we're good, because it's a midterm instead of a short term.
Okay. Very cool.
Yeah.
Yes.
What's your vacancy like?
Even if we were vacant for 3 months out of the year, we would still be in the green, so we can drop 11,000. We had to get an interior designer, and of course, we have a manager there. And we flew ours out from Florida, and she was expensive. We could have, but she does commercials, so I know she's. But it really made a difference with the photos and the color patterns, and just really attracting people.
I don't have much of an investment strategy with my property. I have a 1-bedroom apartment in the Rotunda. I've had it since 2000, and I've been banking on just equity increase, and then, in the future, we're paying student loans and things for my children, and I could use that property. It was stagnant for a long time. It was just going like this. But since the development that's been happening in Texas, it's been shooting up. So my strategy is to just keep it for now. That's right. That's right. So, cool.
That's a question.
Yeah.
Has anyone ever considered section A? And is that lucrative these days?
I have 2 properties that are section 8. One is in Baltimore, one is in Prince George's County. It's definitely lucrative in a sense that, if you have the right tenants in place that are taking care of your property, then there's definitely a lot of benefit to it. I have been so lucky, to be honest. I have some rough tenants in one of the properties, and so I recently hired a property manager to help me manage that, because I can't deal with the day-to-day, right? Like, they'll literally, so the other day, the tenants called me and they're like, hey, our window broke, can you fix it? I'm like, well, timeout, what happened? And they're like, oh, like my son's girlfriend threw a brick.
What?
Oh,
No.
Oh, no.
Right, we're honest. That's
Yeah, and they were like, well, like, we'll pay you back for it. I'm like, are you throwing pressing charges? Like, what's going on, right? And then, yeah, so after that was the last straw. There's been a lot of other incidents similar to that, like, the same woman broke like a door and drywall in the house too. But the great thing is Section 8 covers 100% of the rent. The bad thing about that is that they don't work, right? So
you're not
it's-
invested.
they're not invested in it.
A
So
lot of
that's,
people kind of monitor with credit score. So some people will say, hey, I'll take stipends, but you gotta have a 700, 750 credit score to
Yeah.
kind of vet,
Yeah.
but that's still gonna work.
yeah, so I mean, there's certain people that do it really well. So there's a guy named Dr. Joe.
I know, Asamoah.
Asamoah. So I met him earlier this year, and, you know, even when Vince and he was like, set on your conference, like, talking about like the ABCs.
I mean, he's diligent.
It's very diligent. He actually has a program, so if you're interested in it,
Mhm.
he takes like a handful of people every year. And if you have the capital, right, you know, he will walk through every step of the process and find you a successful Section 8 property, help you with managing the rehab, and then help you find the tenants. Each part is, I think, like 25 grand milestone based throughout the entire process. But he says that the equity that he's able to bring to the table, like automatically he's bringing like 50K equity. So it ends up being an okay deal. So yeah, he's mastered Section 8.
Yeah, I've heard it on the bigger pockets and other,
Yeah, he's
Podcast.
big on bigger pockets.
yeah. Okay, cool, thank you.
So with PRRR, I mean, there are certain considerations, we covered this stuff, right, where's retirements for people. And stuff.
Well, I mean. So. I guess like leading into it, right, the first question I would have for everyone is. You know, what is everyone's time frame for adding additional? You know, either buy and holds, or like in your case, when fix the flips, like what time frame are we looking at for everyone to what they want to do?
Time frame as far as when you want to get it accomplished. For me, I'd say within the next 6 to 12 months, give myself a little time to familiarize myself with the area a little bit more and dive in and do some deep research. You know?
Yeah, when you do multi-family, if you want to do multi-family, would you do that in this area, or would you go across the country?
Both.
Both, yeah, okay. Just you a little bit, you wanna add anything based on that?
Time frame? I would say that, I have a pretty short time frame. I'm looking to quit my job within the next 5 years. And, not have to work 9 to 5. So, I mean, I have other investments outside of real estate that I can rely on, but in terms of real estate, I would say, I think it's sort of changed recently, because the real estate market right now is just so uncertain. So where I was, confident that I could do something within a certain period of time, I think now I'm looking at probably. It really depends on what the opportunity is, to be quite honest with you, am I putting money into it? I'm not really sure, to be quite honest, right now.
Depends on the opportunity.
Yeah, it could be an opportunity that presents itself tomorrow, it's a great deal, and I want to put money into it, then I'll do it. If it's a fix and flip, that's gonna take, 6 months to flip and, or a buy and hold, that's gonna take, a year to several years. It really all depends. I guess.
Yeah, so I guess that leads into the question that you got here in terms of risk tolerance, right? So like your decision will be based on like a certain level of risk that you have.
I would say that, yeah, exactly.
You mentioned you're going after other bigger opportunities. You were talking more about those.
But definitely with partners,
Right.
leverage other people and mitigate their risk, because like you said, I have a pretty low risk tolerance. My mom, she's a researcher, and then she was just gonna gut it. That we're like checks and balances, so.
So you're actively searching for investors right now?
Yes, we raised capital for the syndications. We already have the sponsors. They can sign off for up to 20 million. They have about 8 different multifamily already. But the market is shifting.
This is your syndication or?
We're gonna put GPs on it, because we're gonna raise the capital and learn the asset management piece.
So they had already established it and joined it. When was that a recent thing?
No, we actually met them at a meetup, Cash Flow Breakfast Club in Ashburn. We're partnering with Omni starting in January. So that was basically, they were like, we were trying to figure out how to get into multifamily, and they already had several successful ones, and they've grown to term. and still own properties. Just built a great relationship from meeting in person.
And how about you? You, some properties, and are you gonna expand on that?
I want to, but I don't have the time frame right now, but as she said, eventually I want to quit my 9 to 5 job.
I remember you saying 2 months ago.
2 months ago.
Not yet.
It's a 4 or 5 year plan. Yeah, but one thing I've noticed, I don't know about you guys, property prices started going down in this area, right? Have you seen that? I've seen a lot of price cuts, at least in the last 2-3 months. So is that a trend going?
I think we're seeing some sort of ceiling. You know,
Yes, you know, little price cuts, I mean,
Significant.
nothing insane, but yeah, they're not going up.
They're not going up, but
Yeah.
I've seen about 5 to 10% price cuts in Ashburn, those type of areas there.
Yeah.
Shanton.
That I agree with, yeah. Because my realtor's been sending me, but I actually just canceled the unsubscribe yesterday. Because I knew I wasn't gonna buy anything based on the information I received recently, but I do agree, he's been sending me a lot of property in those areas. Because the properties, the values come down a little bit now next year.
Yeah, and there's like several factors to that, right? Obviously, inventory is low, which you would think like would make the price go up. Like, you would think that would be several weeks. And then second, I mean, typically after Labor Day is when you start seeing. You know,
Great
like-
deals.
Yeah, great deals. It's a yearly trend, right? Like the market's super hot from March to July, and then after September, it's really where it starts to slow down until January. Right, so we're kind of seeing that trend come back a little bit. Yeah,
location.
yeah. So we talked about it a little bit, but I guess, you know, what is everyone's thought on where they want to hold properties, right? From a rental perspective, have you guys thought about certain markets, certain neighborhoods? You know, if it is the DMV, outside of the DMV, right? What is everyone's thoughts on, you know, overall market?
Yeah, obviously, as you get closer to DC. You know, it becomes more lucrative, right? Prices in Ashburn are falling Chantilly. And it's a wave, I don't know if it'll ever hit. It'll hit here, Great Falls, that's what we saw in 2008 and so forth.
Yeah.
I think as we go closer, maybe it'll be more stable over there.
Yeah. I'd say rentals here right now are tough, to be honest, it's very hard to pass from, you're really buying rentals right now for appreciation.
Yeah.
Right, I mean, I had an investor a couple months ago, this past summer, he's like, well, like, I wanna make X amount above mortgage, he's like, well, I wanna do like, at least like 15 or above, like, paying mortgage. I'm like, bro, that's not gonna happen, like, you're not gonna find anything at 6.5%, 7% where you're above at that point. If you want something like that, I mean, I was just at EXPCon, which is EXP's, the realty, brokerage that I'm affiliated.
Vegas.
Yeah, I was in Vegas, and so I met some agents there, that are from different markets. And there's definitely opportunities in other areas, like there's a lot happening in North Carolina right now. A lot happening in Tennessee, Georgia, you know, you can buy a single family home there for like 250 to 300K in nice affluent areas where people are starting to go from a job market perspective. You know, there are opportunities to buy, you know, rentals or you can fix flips, right, in those areas specifically. So yeah, I mean, I'd say DMV is so hard, right? I mean, definitely, you know, like parking it from an appreciation perspective right now.
But one thing him and I have been working on is trying to find those off markets. And so just today, you know, I was driving by a property and it's like, yes, and what do you think of this? And I bought it in 1985, and it's in the middle of Falls Church.
Yeah,
And it's all dilapidated. So, you know, you win from the purchase. of it.
that's the only way to really do it right now in this market is to gain some sort of edge, and that typically happens by finding something that no one else is really seeking out, right? So whether it's door knocking, whether it's, you know, looking at, there's a lot of tools out there where you can look up loan maturities and, you know, do skin tracing, like who owns that house and just calling them for like those way your, you know, offering, you might get like a shotgun, you know, instead, but, you know, you have to pick and choose your battles, but, you know, there's definitely opportunities to that point, right, where, like, even the property that you're working on right now, you have been working in that relationship for several months, if not a year at least, right?
Since May, so it was a gentleman who got fed up with his insurance company because they weren't gonna pay for the flooding that happened in the property. And so that one day he decided to put a for sale by owner in front of his house. He removed this several days later, but I caught his phone number. And I kept calling him and working with him. He disappeared and then finally reappeared again. Again, we got closing the deal. So you have to be persistent.
And that's where you can shave off friendly. Yeah, and that's where you shave off so many fees as well. You can see what directly the seller, there's no real estate commission, right? There's none of that, right? So that's at least like the seller saving like 6% there.
Yeah.
So that's definitely an incentive to go out there and make those relationships happen.
But at that point, you're working cash though, I'm assuming, right, to buy the property?
So I met my business partner at another grid meeting. And then he was able to bring in hard money.
Mhm.
And the hard money qualified us based on my experience. And so us two coming together, we were able to go after that, using their money to go buy it and get the construction money to renovate and have the additions. And
Right.
hopefully put it back in the market and make it winter.
Yeah.
That deal where you, the guarantor on that hard money.
Both and everyone, so we set up a joint venture. And he has a holding company, I have a holding company. Everyone who is in these holding companies are the guarantors. So maybe my wife and his wife are the guarantors. But it's scary how easy it is to get hard money. They just check your credit score and the value of the property and what it's gonna be. And boom.
Why's that scary? Because they know what they're dealing with.
Yeah.
They know what they stand to gain, so.
Yeah, right.
I mean, they tend to charge higher interest rates, from my understanding, but.
Yeah, cost of money is really high.
Yeah,
So if
exactly.
you can find an investor who has their own money already, in syndication sitting somewhere,
Right.
you know, it's much better going down. Yeah,
And then there's a lot more flexibility, I'm sure you talk about it, right? But yeah, there's certain hard money lenders and private lenders where they won't even collect any fees up front, right? Because like, hey, like, we trust the work that they're gonna do, there's someone that's dedicated in doing this. We'll just collect X amount of points for the sale price, right? So there's like no cost to get in and then just worry about it like when it's time to play.
yeah, this is something that you spoke about, you know. Depending on where those properties are, those properties may bring tenants or people who may not treat it right. And this is kind of a thing, I don't know if it's a perfect with that,
Yeah,
but it's a fact, right?
yeah, I mean, I think like. So like, I don't want to steal too much of Dr. Joe's thunder, but you know, he talked about A class tenants, B class neighborhoods, and C class properties. Right, so basically you're looking for the worst properties in medium quality to appreciating neighborhoods, but you're only looking for A class tenants. And what he means by A class tenants are folks, kids that are looking to enter section 8, but they have aspirations, they want to provide for their kids, they want them to be in good school districts, right? So you're looking for those types of tenants. How you go about finding them, that's the tricky part. I don't know how you do that really without, you know, some sort of, you know, like profiling, to be honest.
But if you're talking about section A, you go to section A,
yeah,
and
you
they
go to
have-
section 8, and then I think you interview perhaps you interview them, right? The ones that I bought, they came with the tenants, so I got the same tenants, the entire time.
Right.
But I believe there is an interview process where you can select, the tenants.
So actually, so I did it once when I was living in New Jersey. And I bought a house and I had a Section 8 tenant in there. So I went through the whole process of the application to become a housing provider. And they actually send the tenants out. They give they give the Section 8 tenants, a list of property. And then they go house to house and you pay whichever one they want. I think that's how Joe does it. I think that's how he does it. Is they come to him. Because I remember listening to him once when he was saying that he had one tenant who came to him and she'd gone to other houses. The competition was so thick in that area. He's in DC.
Yeah.
And this one lady, that was an Asian lady, said she didn't want it, and she wasn't interested in his property, and when he asked her why, she said because it doesn't have stainless steel appliances.
I remember that story.
Yeah, so I think they, the ones, have the opportunity to go and select whatever they want.
Yeah.
So that's what I remember.
Maybe now we can delve into the stuff that we're carrying and Dan. If you want to go through that life cycle. In terms of when the properties are acquired and we talked about permanents and things like that. If you want to give us some examples of what we've done in terms of making the property ready for rent and so forth.
Yeah, are there other some?
It talks about case what's broken and no gotcha.
I'll get like a overview, but hitting on a very general overview. So Carrie and Dan, they have one property here in Arlington, Virginia, but then they've had 5 other ones in Florida, Southeast Florida. And for pretty much all of them, minus the property here in Arlington, they've done it where they've acquired it, renovated it, and then rented it out. So just to his point, one of the properties that they bought when they bought them were in a status where they felt like it was ready to, it was a desirable property as a short-term rental. And so they did, and for one of them, I actually kind of did like, they added, made an addition, another one was a duplex, so they gutted and rehabbed the whole entire thing. So they've kind of done it all. And what started all this is actually because they have their primary here in Arlington. It's about a mile up the road from the Key Bridge, so very close to DC. Right before COVID hit, they moved down to Florida, or let me for that. They went to their vacation home down in Florida, and then COVID hit. So they're like, you know what, we're just gonna stay. But in the midst of that, they were renting out the Arlington house on Airbnb. And then from there, being down in Florida, seeing the opportunities that there were, and okay, let's do this down here. So they bought properties, renovated them. Some were bigger than others, and then essentially furnished them, which that's a whole process you can imagine. Furnish them, and then ultimately we, as they mentioned, you have to go through the licensing. Every single state down to the county is different. Arlington, there's just one license, Arlington County, it's just a business license. For Florida, in Broward County is where most of our rentals are. There's like 4 or 5 different licenses you have to obtain, and you file monthly for some and quarterly. It's fun. It's interesting. But I've heard from other people in other areas that they don't have any. So it comes down all the way down to the county you're in, not even the state. And then once you get the licensing, you can then start actively renting it out. So we have them listed on Airbnb, VRBO, and only one of the houses that we put on booking.com, which actually I think now they just merged with VRBO as another one, Expedia umbrella, I think. So
how do you manage attention between these services? I mean.
Yeah.
So you just, wow.
Well,
I guess-
so you can sync calendars, so,
Calendars, yeah.
yeah, there's, don't give me too much credit, you can sync calendars, after we got, I think, to 3 properties total. We did invest, we pay monthly for a platform that manages this all in one spot for us, rather than separately, because it can get very dicey. So, we actually use called guest fee for hosts. And it's kind of like your one-stop shop for everything regarding your properties. You can do messaging, calendars, expense reporting, this, that, and the other. And it's not too expensive. It's definitely not something I recommend if you just have 1 or 2. And at that point, you can say like just stick with it and manage it yourself for a little while. Because it's not worth the price. And then we also do some pricing software. So if anyone does end up doing Airbnb, VRBO, yeah, don't use their smart pricing. It's not legitimate. I mean, it could help you. It's just when we compared what they were suggesting to our new pricing software, it's called Price Labs. The difference was just kind of like it was just like a little hurt to the heart for a moment of like, wow, we could have been achieving this rate every night and we've been here. So they account for everything on Price Labs, down to, do you have your down to your vacancy, do you have a gap in reservations? You usually have a 4-night minimum stay on a property, but you have a 2-night gap in between reservations. You can set like rules to say like, I'll allow a 2-night, and then we'll set the rate. It accounts for surge pricing on holidays, but it's basically pulling from all these different sites and seeing the trend. So it's what Airbnb claims to do with their smart pricing, but we just think Price Labs does it better. So it has made a very big difference in the income potential for all the properties. Yeah.
So for you as the manager, do you do the initial market research, or do they have to already come with that part, or do you have software for that as well?
So Dan and Carrie, Dan basically does most of that. He uses Airbnb. I'm sure I've used heard of that before. So that's honestly been his biggest tool in all of this is Airbnb. It's been very accurate in what we found in terms of what the income potential is. Hassan has helped us close on new loan for the duplex we renovated in Pompano Beach. So I don't think we're gonna keep that one though.
Yeah.
We're gonna let that one.
You guys get an offer?
Too big of a spirit on that one.
They're just ready to, so we had 5 to 6 properties and now we're down to 2, one of which is what he just helped us on, and they're just ready to kind of focus, because they're moved back here to Virginia now. And I think they're just ready to come back to this area a little bit. Down the road, I think Dan wants to look into it again, but just ultimately, because the market was so hot for a while, that the properties we had, it made sense to sell them at the top dollar price that we could. Yeah,
Is there a benefit to owning the properties versus like arbitrage? Is that the word you use? What term in arbitrage?
You get the tax benefits, you get all of those things, whereas it's not your asset if somebody comes back and says, okay, I want my rental back. You've done all this initial hard work, so you really want to own the property.
Yeah, it's really the tax piece, right? I mean, at the end of the day, with arbitrage or renting a property, it's not your own, right? So I guess like it's a lot of people use it as a good entry point, right?
Okay.
But also like, I know that arbitrage restrictions that, with apartment buildings now are pretty strict. I know there's a few buildings now in Northern Virginia that allow it, but you can only do like 90 days out of these 5 days. So, I mean, what are you gonna do for the other, 180 days or so, right?
In the insurance piece, we got like 3 different insurances, so that's out of your bottom line as well. But the fact that you said that Dan added additions to some of these properties, that's extensive research where he knows that he's gonna get a big return on that property for adding something, I guess, from his research.
yeah, and when I say that extension, it wasn't per se like a bump out. It's like for one of the houses in Fort Lauderdale, it had a 2-car garage that they transformed into a bedroom with 2 queen beds.
Super smart.
So yeah,
That's
so
awesome.
like they maximize the space that they had on the property. And to, I'm mentioning big houses in other states, but like someone asked us at our last meeting, and he was only 19 years old, and he's like, well, how would you suggest I get into? And I'm like, I feel like people get so excited about the idea of Airbnb that they just want to go big. They want to get that big home on the water and rent it out for thousands of dollars a night. And I was like, you don't have to do that. And I think people get so ahead of themselves because they're passionate and excited. I have a friend who she just bought a small little 1-bedroom condo in Wintergreen. Everyone loves going there, ski, everything, every season, honestly there. But and it does well enough that she's able to pay the mortgage, enjoy a weekend or two, her and her husband. And she plans to buy more, but that's where she started. And it was a very modest purchase. And I don't think people realize like you don't have to do this elaborate luxurious start.
Couples go away all the time, all they need is one room.
That's like, oh, there's no glamping sites in the natural springs area. They have houses, but no little like 1 bedrooms. Like, I don't need a house.
There's that one place in Shenandoah, what it's called now, but they have these little like tiny cabins where it's basically studio, like maybe like no more than like 150 square feet, but they're always sold out, right? So we were just talking about that earlier, so we should do that.
You're trying to get in a tiny home.
Yeah, so much, put them everywhere.
Great ROI.
So then this crazy schedule that you have managing this, I mean, it sounds like you're automating it with the overall platform, but the things like keeping it clean and things like that, how do you manage that? Is there?
Finding a good team on the grounds. I mean, it takes a little bit of trial and error. We've had, I think we're on our 3rd cleaner who we absolutely love. First to just, not terrible, but
How do you find them?
So this, I will say, the one we have now, we found through Carrie and Dan's personal trainer, it's her mother. So a little bit cheap there, but I have had someone else clean the homes before when like we've been in a pinch, she's not available, what have you. And honestly, I just went on Google and I looked at the reviews, and if they got enough of them and they're at least 4.9 or above, 4.8 maybe, then I've used them and I love them. So you'll know if your cleaner's doing a good job because you'll hear from the guests. I'm sure you guys have all experienced it yourselves at some point in time, whether it was you renting the property or the other way around. And then I do have, again, we left out, but Carrie and Dan's nanny, her husband lives down there. So we hired him essentially as like our maintenance tech because he is a handy person. He used to do some construction in his past, and after every checkout, he walks the property, make sure nothing broken, if their bowl needs to be changed, changes, and all the little things that like could cost you a good review, but you don't think about when you're not there or you're not walking it yourself. So we basically have a cleaner and a maintenance staff, and I rely on them for everything. She sends me pictures after every clean through WhatsApp. I get probably 50 pictures after every clean. But they come in use because just being about 4 tenants, we had just figuring out the last guest that left, the cleaner went and she calls and she was, they cracked the stove top. I know. And so, yeah, it's a brand new stove. We just bought it in January. And there's like a big old crack across one of the corners, but well, someone at our house said that's from sitting on it. Someone was sitting on the stove, as it must have sit out on the counter. I don't know, but the good news is that because she sent me these pictures of the nice clean stove after she was done after the last checkout, I had proof that less than a month ago it was not cracked, and no one's rented it in between time. So I'm like, I submitted to Airbnb, they're working on it, but it's just one of those things that having that team on the ground that you can really trust and know that they got your back. I mean, she sends some pictures down to like a stained washcloth. I'm like, shouldn't I just throw it away? It's a washcloth, let it go.
So that's interesting. If there's a major damage like that, Airbnb covers it.
No, so you request it from the guests first. It can be a very interesting process. We haven't had to do it a lot, but I have had to do it. We had really poor guests one time, and ultimately we did get most of what we asked for back. I don't know if the guests paid for it or Airbnb. Basically, like you submit the request asking the guests for this money, provide photos, repair receipt, what have you. It's funny, they have the option to pay it or decline. I'm like, well, it's can tell you what they're gonna do 99% of the time, but, and then if they decline it, you can choose, do you wanna keep pursuing it, or do you wanna let it go? And so I told Airbnb, they declined it, and said they cracked their so they need to fix it, and they honestly take a long time to review, it's usually 1 to 2 weeks, give or take. It's just Airbnb and VRBO how they operate, but, I don't ultimately know whose pocket it comes out of, but.
But you do end up getting
For the,
compensated.
yeah, there's only been once that we didn't get, and it was honestly at that point, it was for like a few sets of sheets, so I'm like, I'm gonna let it go.
Because doesn't Airbnb charge insurance now to cover damages and stuff?
They do offer that to you, they do have,
I thought that was automatic though, it's not like you have a choice.
maybe it's VRBO, I think that charges an option. One of them charges an option or gives an option to charge for insurance, but Airbnb has its own set of insurance coverage for hosts and for guests.
Right, exactly.
I started to read the one for hosts. It's kind of crazy. It's very, very long, detailed, even at like just pages upon pages of terms and agreements, but ultimately, like, you also have your own insurance policy. So I haven't had an issue where I've had to call them out on anything. The only time we've had an issue with Airbnb is actually during the presidential, it's here in DC for the Arlington House, and it was when the riots were going on in DC, it was when things were very heated and political. And we had a guest Airbnb canceled reservations for people coming to the area because they didn't wanna, I guess, put into it, and ultimately it lost us a reservation that was for, I think it's $8,000, and we basically caught them saying that they owe us that money per their newsletter they sent out saying that they would cover. And they were trying to tell us they wouldn't, how to get a lawyer involved, very simply, sent a letter stating, this is what you all said, you cancel reservation, this is the money my client lost out on, and they did ultimately end up paying. That's the only big issue we've really had with Airbnb. I mean, we've had that big of an issue down to like a cracked stove or stained sheets, and like it's been pretty smooth.
Right. Do you ever do home warranties?
We do have a home warranty for the one down in Florida, and I actually don't think they have one on their Arlington house here. They do, they never come about it. So, but we do have one for the one down in Florida. It's like $80 a month, $90 a month, and it's actually come in handy a few times just because it's Florida AC. Is a big thing there that tends to break often. People don't recognize you can't set it to 50 degrees in the heat of summer, but
Would you do that over, so you said one of the properties you have a handy guy? Who's pretty much can fix almost everything, I'm assuming. Would you do that? What's your preference?
honestly, both. Only because the home warranty comes in handy for the big ticket items. And if you're blessed enough to find someone who can take care of all of those items for you, the unicorn of handyman. So, I'd say then just go with the one. We don't have that, and while Brian's amazing, he has his limitations, so he's really good just for the literal handyman things. Big ticket items, it's not his specialty.
Right.
Yeah, I've gotten home warranties for every single rental property I own. I mean, anything from water heaters, dishwashers, the ACs, to electrical stuff going out. I mean, just having the ability to stay deductible and they come out and take care of it.
Right.
Obviously, there's little things, right? Like maybe there's like a hole in the wall or something happens that you need like a handyman to come in and fix. But there's point, like I always go with them. Yeah. Yeah.
Or, I mean, we fast grab it before, if it's like a tiny job, like you really don't.
Yeah.
Your contractor doesn't want to take on something smaller than X, like Task Rabbit, Thumbtack, they've all been great too.
Yeah, I
Just,
use them
quick,
too.
like,
Exactly.
We'll change when I'm not there, so. And all of the houses are in their own, that we've had have been in their own LLCs. They've never, the only one that was under Carrie Nance person was their primary home down in Florida at the time.
Separate LLC, we said?
For all of them, yeah, so that is obviously one gets in trouble. Because of
Right.
that.
Very cool, yeah.
Yeah. You know that, right?
I haven't put one. The other ones I had before, I knew about that strategy, so I've been like retroactively trying to place it, but it's so smart. I know you're doing the same thing with all of your kind of fix and flips as well.
Yeah, just.
So you just got
digitally.
LLC for each. So for somebody that has hundreds, they have hundreds.
Separate LLC.
Oh, wow.
The multi-family development we're doing in DC, at one point in time, a few years ago, we had 15 active projects and we had each project has their own LLC.
Do you have any buyers for like mixed use retail space in Washington DC? Like any people that are looking to buy properties like that? On the,
We have a significant large CRM, you know, yeah. Sure.
I have a pocket listing right now and I don't have anybody for it just yet, so I will let you share it to you.
If one of my investors might be interested.
Absolutely, let's get that referral. I'm an apartment, so I don't know anything about mixed use space.
Sure. We have a mixed use space in DC. Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
This one is on Georgia.
Okay.
How do you share that information? Ms.
Uh,
Sarah? Huh?
Just talk.
Through-
Yeah, it's really like, I haven't to sign an NDA and there's really specific rules, so I can be very vague. But until I get approval from the owner who would never list it, he's very private, then I can disclose as much as possible.
Sure.
So that's what I'm wondering, how would you disclose it to the group? Like, is there, what do we use?
Oh, it would be an NDA or whatever we come up with. If he says, hey, this sounds like something I have buyers for.
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if you guys have, I know for the Arlington one, we started it in RCM, but we have like a little like listserv, but if we have anything, we'll like send it out. to
Right,
the
that's
people
what
who
I was wondering if I
Exactly.
could get everyone's info, because I have to leave the list of property, but I wanted to connect with all of you. Everybody.
Yeah. Good point. Yeah, so I have everyone's email addresses to sign up, so what I'll do is I'll just, you know, like send everybody, you know, and get everyone connected, that way if things come up, you know.
I love the small meetups, because
Yeah.
it's intimate, we get to know each other.
Yeah.
Thanks for having
The larger ones are tough.
We gotta run, I gotta go list the
Okay.
property.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you. That's great.
See you guys in the next one. I'll be back.
Not the multi, yeah, just the Airbnb, but I
Thank
yeah, I
you.
know that the actual.
How does the process go when it comes to like, you know, finding the land to develop on? Because DC is like. Small.
Yeah.
Like there's many.
The acquisition part, I wasn't as big of a process, but I know from speaking with the partners who were, you know, started it and were acquiring the buildings, I know that they had kind of their little list of criteria, so specifically for the mid-sized properties we were doing, are anywhere from 6 units to 30. They were looking for a lot size of at least 5,000 square feet. It had to be certain zoning, so mixed use, as she was mentioning, residential. What we specialize in is like conversion, so we look for like a 4-unit building and we dig out the basement and make it 6, or we'll, you know, pop it up some levels, 1 or 2 and make it into 10.
Yeah.
So I don't remember all their criteria, it just really depends on what you're wanting to do and start off with. Zoning is definitely a big one to just keep an eye out for, but I think if you're just starting out and want to do like fix and flips for the multi-family, then like that's pretty easy because it's already known for what you're looking for.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, you know, there's. In terms of what you're looking for, it really depends, there's obviously the neighborhood piece, you have to look into, you know, like, is this unit like gonna be easily convertible? Right, so for example, there's a lot of row homes in DC where the basements are under things like 8 feet minimum height, ceiling height, right? So a lot of times they'll go in and be like, well, this is only 7 feet. Right, so at that point, like, hey, am I gonna invest money in lowering flooring or is it something in the house? As an example, right, if you have the rights to build on top, I know you're looking at that mixed use right now for potentially building on top as well.
Yeah,
So you have to have the air rights to build on top.
well, it all depends, right? Because even though you have the air rights, like in this particular building. Um. There's another adjacent building that's taller, 4 stories taller. That builder decided to build balconies facing the air rights of this building. Yeah. And so then what do? Even though you have the rights, they can go complain.
Yeah.
You know, and block that. So that's what we're looking into right now to see if it's worth the headache to go up.
How do you purchase air rights?
You own the rights, you have air rights up and down to the middle of the earth.
On whatever property you buy? Okay.
It's true.
I know, it's just,
I just.
Yeah.
Barely.
the his point neighborhood is important. If you got, we have properties in Northeast and Northwest, and we just sold the last unit of one of them off Capitol Avenue in Northeast, and it's funny because, you know, as a developer, it's easier said to ourselves as developers than it is to buyers. We have to find the right buyers because you go through the neighborhood and you're like, all right, it's a little rough looking, you know, could be improved, but if you walk, you know, one block down, 2 blocks down, and you just look down the streets both ways, there's development everywhere. It's very in progress right now, so it's going to be a hot spot. Especially for whoever bought the units that they did, or it was a 4 unit that we did. You know, if they hold on to it, even just for a year, they'll get the appreciation on their house because the neighborhood has so much development going on. But it's hard as a buyer to like show them this beautiful property with all these old ragged down homes and say, trust me, it's gonna be a great investment. So you just gotta be the great buyer to get in there and say, or, you know, developer, landlord, all that, just to be able to say, like, I know this is gonna pay off, I just gotta wait.
Yeah, I've done some driving around DC and I noticed like the southeast side. Definitely not. It's the best.
Yeah, I probably stick to right now, obviously, Northeast definitely is on the come up for sure, especially on, you know, the west side of the bridge. They're definitely doing a lot of Anacostia right now and developing that, so I think that's the next area that we're going to see a lot of growth and appreciation in. Did they say you start now? Yeah, because they're usually wow, that's crazy.
I think it was like a few months ago, they were like, had this horrible, I don't remember reading, they're like, hey, rivers are going, I'm like, wow, this doesn't make me feel any more.
First time in my lifetime that's open for swimming.
But those are the areas that you want to look for, you know, as an investor.
Yeah.
Why not look by those?
Yeah, but it also depends then, right? Because like there's certain parts of Southeast where it's gonna take a very, very, very long time, right? So there's certain areas that, you know, are trending well, like Navy are, right? Like when I was growing up, even in my late teens, early 20s, it was horrible.
Yeah.
Right, like up until 2014, 2015, like they were still developing, it was bad, now it's the most lucrative, like one of the best areas in DC. Right, so it's all about location, there's certain areas like Noma, for example, I was just there today. My first time in Noma, actually like hanging out there. It's nice.
Yeah, it's very nice. Yeah, lots of government building.
Future developments, like
Yeah.
across from another one of our properties, they're doing like that German Fall. I think it's what it's
Yeah.
called.
Okay, sure.
So they look into like big developments where they're like putting a brand new shopping center and with the tracks that, you know, that new neighborhood of or crowd. So again, like the neighborhood now, it's I guess on the rougher side, I've been there like a ton, but that's like here at least, but right across the street, they've been starting to tear things down, put up this brand new shopping center.
Yeah, I was there today, and every other row house is now being developed into. condo, unit, right? So it's,
Yeah, right, if you're driving around and you're like, just to look, like that's. It's ultimately like the best thing, like you gotta see how the neighborhood's developing, like, are you gonna be the only one throwing up a brand new building or renovating a brand new building? Or are there other people on the same path as you that will help? Because ultimately, the end goal, well, you're gonna wanna rent them, right? You wanna rent, sell, like you gotta,
Well, I mean, I have options, you can short term rental if it makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, all of
But it's like,
DC is harder with short-term
Short-term
rentals.
yeah.
They have a lot of,
restrictions.
almost, I don't think,
it's, they made it even harder in the last year.
yeah. They don't, they want the business going back to the hotels and more.
And then with long-term rent, you have TOPA as well.
What's that?
So at TOPA, basically, let's just say you have a multifamily.
Mhm.
And you have tenants, and then 5 years from now, you decide to sell your multifamily to someone else, you're like, yeah, I want to move somewhere else. Every single tenant in that building, you have to give them the right to purchase their.
Oh, I actually heard about that. There's this video I saw, this guy, he made maybe like $2 million by stealing this other guy's tenants, by giving them the option to do that. Oh, wow.
The tenants opportunity to purchase that.
Yeah.
So we agreed into it, so it's a good one.
There's a lot of fraud with it too, where people will sell off their rights to someone else, to a developer, and then they'll hold the building hostage from the seller.
That's not makes sense. Yeah. You had a question.
You know, so.
no, it wasn't a question. I was just gonna say, and I think you kind of just alluded to, I was just gonna say in terms of, investing in areas where you think it's going to be, going through a gentrification or whatever, future development. I think it's also about your timeline, like what's your future goals? You can hold on to it for the long term and just worry about, the equity
Yeah.
that you're gonna build, and, if you're young, maybe you have a 20-year plan, if it's something you're gonna turn around real quick, then, those are kind of things you also want to take into consideration, but you could lose money.
Yeah, definitely long term, for sure. When it comes to finding like the land, though, do you just contact realtors? I mean, I know you all have been specific credentials that you look for, but
And I haven't been part of the acquisition process a lot, but I know that a couple of our buildings were obtained just simply by door knocking. Other ones were brought to us by wholesalers. The big one, I mean, as he mentioned during the meeting, like he drove by a house and said it looked dilapidated, already used, and he saw he saw the for sale by owner, but he's looked at other ones where they just look like they haven't been cared for a long time, they're crumbling down, and you just knock on the door. I mean, you gotta be careful that someone doesn't pull a gun on you, but I mean, Jordan's going on pretty good all the time, so if they can do it, we can do it. And
That's some jurisdictions, they require.
To knock on doors?
To knock on doors,
Oh.
Arlington,
Yeah.
Alexandria, even Fairfax County,
I think so
Well-
long as you're not,
it's so restricted.
yeah, and I think so long as you're not knocking on every single door of a neighborhood soliciting something, then like I'd like to think no one will say anything. If it's like a one time, like, hey, I was taking a walk, I noticed your house, like,
Right.
you have an interest in selling, I highly doubt anyone's gonna get
Yeah.
upset about that. And if they do, then it's not your seller.
It's mostly for canvas.
Yeah, yeah. My boyfriend does door knocking as like he's in the field half the time, stories he has about some of the people who answer the door. It's a real day for him, but you do have to have permits, and they've had, they're like, oh, all the top signs, they have a permit, so go ahead. Yeah, very interesting, but I think you're doing it right, you're driving around, you're noticing the neighborhoods, and it's gotta start paying closer attention to the property, it's terrible. Some people don't think they have that option, so, and it is a very viable option, all you gotta do is not.
But one thing you spoke to, which is, look down the streets, which is, that applies to everywhere, just, growing up in this area. And now driving around and seeing those developments that were happening, years ago, and now where those developments are, it's so funny seeing that way.
Yeah.
So always be observant of that.
Yeah. And to her point, right, like there's that piece of it. But then there's like the longer term piece of it, right? So obviously, like you go to where Eckinger Mall is and those properties, you can see a lot of development. I think you can tell, yes, like. I see in the next 5 years, there's gonna be a whole lot of changes happening here.
Yeah.
But there's other neighborhoods where maybe it's taking a lot longer, but if your strategy is, you know, like I'm able to wait 20, 30 years, to see that we should. That might be being solid.
Yeah.
The other interesting thing, one of my dad's best friends, how he found a lot of opportunities was looking at the zoning master plan too.
Yes.
So for like Fairfax County or even TC, seeing what the government is planning on, you know, doing with different areas.
Yeah. Someone mentioned that at a meeting in Lawrence a few meetings ago, and he actually does that for like a living. But he was, I think we were referencing Frederick, Maryland. I don't know if you know you are with Maryland. It's like way out western.
You know, yeah.
Go up 270, like for a good hour or so. She's further, she's millions for it. Yeah, I used to live in Frederick for like 9 months and it was a drive. But that said, where I lived, it was, I mean, Ryan Holmes monopolized on that whole area insanely. And, but to his point of like the master plan, like Frederick's a little bit more populated now, but even past that or around it or wherever you're looking, when you see the city starting to put in water and sewer lines, places where there are no houses right now, that's your like key of like, if you have the long-term plan of like, okay, I can wait, that's gonna be a development area. And if you wanna get in there first, that's a key point.
So the zoning plans are accessible to the public?
I mean, the master plan designates how the development's gonna happen in terms of what zoning's allowed. Right, and so Ryan Holmes saw that opportunity and they're like, oh crap, we're gonna go buy all this land over here
I
from some
think
farmer. or something. It's online.
How often do they update?
They meet on a regular basis, all these different municipalities.
Okay.
Fairfax County, I think, I don't know if it's quarterly or monthly or something like that, but it's getting updated.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
You just buy the land and hold it until a developer comes along and says, I want it, I'm willing to pay you a big bucks for it.
Yes, and they designate the zoning, but it doesn't match the existing zoning, so what people do is they buy the land. They go to zoning and rezone it, right, and then they sell it like that. So then they make money off of that arbitrage, because now it's worth more.
Yeah.
So,
There's a, let's give them another small couple, there's, in Clarksville, Maryland, there's like a auto park, right, so it's like, we're like 10 different dealerships just are all clustered around this one area. I kid you not, and then part of it all, there's a driveway leading down to where a house is. I mean, this is one person who refuses. Like, this is great. I remember this person, and I love it. It's just in the middle of like 10 dealerships, living large. If he ever sells that land, I don't even want to know what that paycheck's gonna be. He's holding on. That's the definition of patient. Yeah, so I mean, that's the perfect example, that they zoned it for commercial, I guess, and he's like, nope.
I don't know how you find this information, but I remember reading a long time ago. Anytime you hear McDonald's is gonna set up shop in an area, that's a good place to go to.
I read that about Starbucks too.
Right,
And-
because they've already done the research,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know, so if you can find that out before they get there, then you know it's a good location.
Sorry about that. They canvas area. They'll put one on every other block for like a mile radius, and then they're like, we're out. And then you don't see another one for another 20 miles. I had to do a whole report on it, college, and like, it's genius. So. Thanks,
Yeah.
guys.
well, you guys are gonna set up the.
Yes.
list for it. I
Yes.
don't know how you wanna do that, but I'll leave that to you.
Yeah, so what tool do you guys use?
I think they're had some help in this, but you can just set up a email.
Yeah. Some at all there. Yeah.
Do you want to mention next month?
We got one coming next month, I don't know what the day it is.
Yeah, it's like, I think it's the week before Thanksgiving.
This is monthly, right? Different location?
Same location.
Well, I think for this one, we may have a different location. Because of, for December, or, you know, but if it was all blank out in November. Oh, really? So I'm have to work with them students. We were talking about going to that bar across the street.
It's a small group like this, why not, right?
Yeah.
For margaritas, any discussion is better.
November 15th.
November 15th.
What's the topic?
How to save and make a fortune.
Fortune tax.
Depreciation.
1031 depreciation and self-directed IRAs.
But it says the same, look, is this where we are? 98?
Yes,
Oh, but that might change.
So we're gonna have.
we might have to change it. Yeah.
So I actually wanted to talk to this guy, not realizing they were a couple. About my getting my shower done. I have a contractor coming to on Thursday this week. Who's a contractor? You're a contractor?
We're general contract,
Oh, okay. Okay.
just a shower.
Yeah, well, yes and no, sorry.
No second floor edition.
No, not yet, no, not yet.
Sure. Alright, guys, thanks for coming out.
Yeah, that was great.